You are listening to MFM 92.6. Move to the music.
On the lunch show that we're going to be having a bit of a chat, man, with the one and only Vincent Shacks on MFM 92.6, who's the Wilderness Group Impact Manager, because the Wilderness Impact Challenge is something that we have got to talk about. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Hopefully your day is just going great. Appreciate you for being part of this conversation.
Good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity to share a little bit about our work.
Oh, man, I want to know. Firstly, what is the Wilderness Impact Challenge and why was it started?
Thanks. Well, it's a good question. So Wilderness as a company, we started 40 years ago in Botswana, and we currently operate in 8 countries and run an ecotourism enterprise. We have over 64 camps in these 8 countries and help to protect just over 2.4 million hectares of land. Now, the Wilderness Trust is the non-profit partner of Wilderness, and what we've done over the last sort of 20 years is use funding to support conservation projects around these protected areas that we work in. What we found was that a lot of the funding that we were using for these projects was kind of going to the same kinds of projects, doing the same kinds of things, but we haven't been making the traction that we wanted to make in terms of impact. So the idea with the fund is to make a larger pile of funding available in order to stimulate some new thinking from new areas and new places. So using this money as an incentive to get teams to collaborate, perhaps get people to think about solutions that are not traditionally from the sector, and to start asking, are there solutions out there that perhaps have not been spoken about or brought to the surface because they maybe we're not commercially viable, so people stopped getting funding to follow through on these ideas. So that was the idea, and we hope that it's going to inspire some people to bring some good ideas forward.
Oh, man, and let those ideas come. Wherever you are, tuning in on MFM 2.6, bring those ideas. I want to ask now, what makes this initiative different from other conservation efforts?
Yeah, I think it's the idea that we are looking for ideas from anyone, anywhere. So as I mentioned, traditionally, in our sector, most of the solutions are coming from people who work in the nature conservation space, perhaps in the tourism space. But we're sitting down and thinking perhaps, there are other industries, whether it be the tech sector, whether it be software engineers, whether it be mechanical engineers, perhaps even artists, teachers, that have ideas that have never been asked to contribute to some of the problems that we're experiencing. So what makes this novel is that we are really trying to reach out to anyone and to encourage collaboration between sort of different sectors to give us a solution, something that we may not have heard of, and perhaps looking at an old technology and revamping it a little bit to help with.
Are you still there?
Struggle to make real traction.
Oh, yeah, you're back. We lost you a bit there, but I hear you now. And I want to ask now, why is the 2024 focus on the project pillar, and what does it involve?
Sure. So one of the major impacts that we have in our areas is this idea of human-wildlife conflict. So we have these large expanses of wildlife estate that we operate our tourism entities in. And just on the outskirts of these wildlife areas are people living, trying to create a living with livelihoods that are very important to them. They're growing crops, there's schools there, people are having to walk long distances. And because these wildlife areas are doing well, the wildlife species tend to disperse out of the wildlife spaces and into these community areas. And this is where we find these hotspots of conflict. So the focus this year is on our protect pillar. Our impact strategy works of 3 pillars: educate, empower, and protect. We're focusing this year on the protect pillar because we're really trying to see if there are any solutions out there that can help us with this human-wildlife conflict. And here we're talking about, issues such as, elephants that are moving into plowing fields and destroying many hectares of crops in one evening, or, in some areas we have lions that will come into an area and destroy livestock. and it varies between species and between areas. But the idea with our Impact Challenge this year is that we're trying to find solutions for human-wildlife conflict.
Oh, man. And since you're talking about you want to find ways to now have solutions to these issues, how does the challenge aim to solve human-wildlife conflict?
The problem is so complicated and so complex that we realize no one solution for this type of issue. So the way that we approach it is we use our 3 pillars and really try and work through all 3 pillars to try and resolve these issues. So in the first instance, through education, we start with the younger generation to get them to understand why these wildlife areas exist, what are the opportunities of these wildlife areas, and how can they become involved in this opportunity. Also to understand the importance of having wildlife species and intact ecological systems around you, what it means for fresh water in the village, what it means for fertile soil, what it means for pollination of plants. So we start with the very basics, with the education at school, and then we develop further into how can we use the wildlife to create small economies. And these are not just economies built around tourism, but a tourism camp needs lots of things to function. It needs mechanics to fix vehicles. It needs fresh food for the kitchens. It needs staff, obviously, for the hospitality side. There's a whole economy that is built around these tourism lodges, and we are trying our best to see if people in these communities can start training and empowering themselves to become a part of this economy and start providing goods and services directly to these tourism establishments. So it's really a multifaceted approach. At the very direct level, we're looking at solutions. So, for instance, with some of the plowing fields that are getting raided by elephants, there's some very novel ideas about how to keep an elephant out of a plowing field. But we do feel that there can be better solutions. There can be perhaps better ways of doing this with such amazing technology that we have at our fingertips these days. We'd like to encourage those experts, those engineering students who are sitting there and playing with AI and playing with drones and building networking systems to start, really thinking differently about how some of these technologies can be used in very rural settings, but also for a very important cause, something that will help both people and wildlife.
Drones, I feel like it's one of the greatest ideas as well that would really help. Just now, how long will they last flying up there? Come to think of it, you also said that you want us to give some ideas like everybody. What kind of ideas or projects are you hoping to see?
The whole idea of an impact challenge is we try not to be too prescriptive, just so that we don't sort of pour water on any creative thinking. The idea here is that we say, here's a problem, and we really are interested to hear about any types of ideas that you think can resolve that problem, whether it be a direct solution to the problem or something that perhaps works indirectly towards the problem and may have to be implemented over a longer period of time. So we're really not prescriptive about what these ideas should look like. But one thing we are asking is that this is an idea that can be scaled up and used in many different locations. Operating in 8 countries over such vast tracts of land, we would like to find a solution that we can implement in many different areas rather than just one location. So in terms of what we are looking for is something that's scalable, something that we can test in the field because we have access to all of these places. If somebody had to come forward with a potential technology or solution, we could immediately put these things out in the field and see how they work and test them. So anything that really can solve a problem and be scalable is something that's very appealing to us.
And your focus is more on Namibia, Kenya, and Rwanda. Why is that? Why is the key focus on this area?
Yeah, so actually the focus would be on any of our 8 countries. Let me quickly go through them. It's Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Kenya, Tanzania, and Rwanda. So it's very many different African countries, and there's quite a bit of diversity between a lot of them. But generally, the conditions on the ground are very similar in that you have very rural communities living in very rural conditions on the outskirts of areas that are very wild. That is the one similarity that all of these countries have. So, the solution, while it may need to be adapted to each of those countries, the conditions on the ground are pretty similar because of those factors. And really what we're doing here is we're focusing on those countries because that's where our camps are and where our community partners are. And we would really like to see this investment into some new thinking and to this new innovation benefiting the communities that have partnered with us.
Oh, nice, man. And I want to know now, as much as you say everybody can enter, maybe there's a bit of some rules. Who can really enter this challenge and how can they stand out?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is once you get onto our application page, you're going to see an application form there. And that application form has been put together very thoroughly so that if somebody does want to enter, they're going to have a very good idea of their idea and their concept. They're going to have to give some real thought to how this product looks, how it will function, how it can be scaled up. So we really think that this application form is going to be an asset to anybody who has an idea because it's going to get you thinking in terms of how to design something and then how to really bring it into the field. So anyone can apply, but we are quite sure that once they start the application process, they're going to have to, we'll start seeing the serious ideas coming through because people are going to have to be very organized when it comes to applying.
Oh, nice, man. And we know that it's a bit of a competition with this, and there will be that one idea that stands out. And when it wins, I want to ask now, what impact do you hope this idea will have on the conservation?
Yeah, look, this is a new approach to conservation funding, and I hope that we get the applications that we're expecting to get, in that they'll come from different sectors and new thinking, and hopefully it not only provides a solution that we can use in the field, but it also provides a new way of funding projects like this. And what I mean by that is that we start looking at the funding of projects more from an investment point of view rather than a funding point of view. What we found listening to a few of the people that have contacted us is that there are some great ideas out there, but very often the people are not able to bring these ideas to market or to find that sort of last mile of funding because they aren't able to attract the funding that they need because this product perhaps could not be commercially viable. It's not something that's going to be profitable. So that's very often where the funding stops. And what we're trying to do with this funding is to say, look, we realize that the solution you're bringing forward may not be profitable one day, but it will have massive impact. And that's why we want to support this work. So hopefully we don't only get a solution that works in the field, but we also can show that there are different ways of funding projects. Instead of giving 10 small grants, you can pile the money together and give one massive boost into investing into a solution. Hopefully that creates some new thinking.
I have a feeling that with the listeners that we have maybe two types of people. We have two people. We have firstly maybe the person who wants to be involved in this, who is already innovative, has an idea already, just to be part of this without being part of the competition. And then two, we have people who want to enter maybe the challenge, exactly the one that you just told us about. If these people want to be in touch with you, where can they get you?
So the best way to get in touch is through our application page. So if you just go to any good search engine and search Wilderness Impact Challenge, we will very likely be the first hit on that page. And there's a page on our Wilderness Trust webpage dedicated to the challenge. It gives you all the entry details. It gives you the application form. It also gives you some ideas on what kind of solutions we're looking for. So there you will already start getting an idea if you're on the right track or not. And what I would encourage, I imagine that there's a lot of students out there that are also listening, is to think about the different departments that you have on campus and who you could perhaps speak to bring a real novel and new idea to the party. I think that's probably the best way of going about it. Our Impact webpage is a wonderful resource, and there's tons of information on there. So I would encourage anyone to go there and have a read about what we do, and that will give you a much better idea of what we're looking for.
Thank you so much, Vincent. This was very informative, man.
No, you're welcome. And thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope to get some exciting application from that part of the world.
Definitely. Stellenbosch University students are listening. Surely they're going to come through.
Hopefully.
Cheers.
Great. Thank you very much. Cheers.